Hey guys, it's Matthew here once again with a new build, and this time around I am testing out Lancing Steel. And I was initially splitting steel as well, but I just kind of liked Lancing Steel more and went in that direction entirely. But I started out as a splitting steel, Lancing Steel hybrid, and I wanted to just test out the new steel skills since I've been told they are pretty damn cool and if built correctly, then they're really effective. Shattering Steel I've seen in action, the other two I haven't yet, so I wanted to try those out. And Lancing Steel, as far as I'm concerned, fucking insane. This is a version of the build that I made with Saviour and Deadeye. I didn't really want to go just a conventional champion impale stacking, because that is pretty damn obvious. It's gonna work, it'll be nice, it's just impale, right? So I went with Deadeye and got the chain bonus, and then using Tailwind, a bit of extra bleed and life gain on hit, and also using 2 additional chains in my supports, and it's goddamn ridiculous. So I do have 2 Saviour clones, as you can tell, just firing off in the background. They are kind of acting as totems at this point, but they are based off of your steel reserves. So you need certain steel shards to be able to activate some of the more special abilities on these skills, and Lancing Steel, if you have 4 steel shards to use or to consume, then it's going to fire out 4 additional projectiles, and that is also going to happen for your Saviour clones. They're based off of your steel shards, so if you keep up your steel shards at all times, then they are always going to be firing off huge extra projectiles. And as you can see with the additional chains, the clear is just completely ridiculous. It's just, I don't even know what to say. I'm pretty sure it's some of the fastest clear I've ever had, because some of these maps are taking me like 30-40 seconds to go through, and it's very similar to the Syndicate Spectre sort of gameplay, where you're just like zooming around, your boys are helping you clear the entire map, and then you're also doing some clear of the entire map too. So the chain is extremely potent. Our single target is pretty damn good in this setup, even in the AoE sort of clear setup, and I have just been running just about nothing but juiced up, sextanted, double beyonded type maps, because I could easily handle it. And as I mentioned, I'm Deadeye, so I've also got that life gain on hit from the bleed passive, and as well as that, I've got a bit of life gain on hit from my rings, and you can go really hard on life gain on hit if you want, but even with just about 60 life gain on hit, I'm damn near unkillable as long as I'm attacking things and I don't get one shot, for example. So we will try and keep the life at around 6k by the end of the character with some good dodge, good evasion, using Wind Dancer, using Fortify, stuff like that. So ideally I shouldn't be dying to any silly sort of one-shots, and then if the life gain on hit is going off, then your sustain is just crazy to the point where you shouldn't ever really be dying. You can see that this is the MTX for Lancing Steel as well. I think I did show it off just at the start without the micro, and they're just kind of duller steel blades, whereas this is a sort of more golden shower type thing, and it does kind of mess with the bitrate while streaming, so things are pretty pixelated from time to time, but it's not too bad if you're actually playing it yourself. There will be some frame tankage, and it is mostly from what you'll see in just a second when I'm fighting single target enemies, because Sniper's Mark just has a really crazy interaction with this sort of ability and skill. But you can see that I'm still doing these double beyonded sort of sextanted maps and shot up to red tiers pretty damn quickly, really quick levels, really quick progression, and it doesn't matter. Just about nothing matters, and it's completely cruisy. And for a lot of these maps, I'm not even looking at my main monitor, I'm just reading chat as much as I can, because it's fairly face roll play style. Like, it doesn't really matter where I aim, what I do, and what I stand in for the most part, so it's pretty damn friendly for most people. And this is what I'm talking about with Sniper's Mark. So if you put Sniper's Mark on the enemy, it says that your projectiles split out to 3 different enemies or something like that, and basically it just means that or with Lancing Steel, all of your projectiles are going to go in a big nova. So after that, for this Atsiri, I wasn't putting on that sniper's mark anywhere. It was just a little test because otherwise I'll die to reflect, but you can see exactly how that performs and how it looks, and you'll see it throughout a couple other bosses and metamorphs, which is just some of the smoothest metamorphing you'll ever do, because as soon as the enemies spawn, they all just get chained to and insta-die. So for example right here, as long as you put up a sniper's mark, then it gets really crazy, but even without sniper's mark, it's pretty damn nuts. Because the chains are just that potent, and you can take it to a much higher degree. You can use a good Paradoxica, you can use Awakened GMP, Awakened Chain, much better gear, much better jewels. This is still somewhat of a budget version of the build, and I will show you the couple of even more budget alternatives, like a Bell Timber Blade, which will just get you started. Basically all you need is a bit of a Saviour, if you want the huge minion type version like this. Otherwise, I think it works even without a Saviour, but it's so much more fun having extra couple of turrets with you. But regardless of that, let me get into how I've built the character so far. So here's our character, currently level 89. My ascendancy is on a boot. That just references Deadeye's Tailwind, one of the main reasons to go Deadeye being basically achievable through crafting on a boot. But doesn't matter, Deadeye's still pretty decent in this context at least anyway. Let me quickly check how long that's taken. 13 hours to almost hit level 90, and that's with a bit of crafting involved and some, shenanigans and stuff. So it's been really fast for leveling. So we are based around Lancing Steel, as you can see here. Pretty similar to how it used to be, a bit of extra damage, but there is a bit of a rework with the Call of Steel button. So basically, when you just attack regularly with Lancing Steel, that's what happens, and it looks something like that. But if you have additional steel shards, which you gain through using Call of Steel, so Call of Steel there gives you steel shards, it can consume 4 of those shards per attack to give you more projectiles. Now you got way more projectiles through your attack, like that. And your Saviour clones will use those sort of shards, if you've got them as well, to attack more as well. So it does become a bit of a different and, somewhat cluttered playstyle, in that you are stutter stepping a lot and right clicking and then R, right click R, right click R, or right click a few times R. So you're pressing Call of Steel quite frequently just to keep your shards up, but it's not even that necessary for a lot of things. It's just going to be a pure flat increase on output, so it's worth your time doing. But for smaller content, you don't really have to. But you get kind of used to it after a little while. Once I got to maps, once I was doing a lot of maps, I didn't find using Call of Steel that painful, and you definitely need to get yourself a Lord of Steel at some point. There's several different types. The one I've got here does some overwhelm with your impales. Call of Steel has much better use speed, and then when you use Call of Steel, it causes reflected damage from the impales, because you can collect all the steel shards off of the impaled enemies around to get those steel shards up quicker, and then it also deals the damage that's on the enemies currently impaled. But without that, you just get those shards manually as well. You can see my shards just then didn't go down at all for a few attacks, because I've got this helm enchant, 30% chance to count as consuming steel shards without consuming them. So that just means that for single target, hopefully I'll have my steel shards up slightly more often and not have to stop during single target to press that quite as often. So it's cheap helm enchant, but I think it should be maximum output for single target. So currently, Lancing Steel, I do have the Deadeye +1 chain. So I've got 1 chain here and then 2 chains there, so it's 3 chains total. And with this node, it means that chain is actually a DPS increase against single target. But that was my last ascendancy. To start with, I went with Rupture, because it's huge output when you're just starting leveling, 30 life gain on hit when you hit a bleeding enemy. I then went Tailwind, then into Fast Shot, and then Ricochet. And currently I don't have Point Blank. I'm not sure if that's correct. I'll test that out in endgame bosses and stuff, but I'm treating it a bit more ranged. I'm pretty sure Point Blank is going to be an increase, because you do want to be up close and personal with so many bosses to get all of your attacks in on them and not miss any projectiles, but we'll see how that goes. So far, Fast Shot has been just fine anyway. So currently the links are Lancing Steel into Impale, currently using GMP, though the more projectiles you have, the worse GMP gets, and I'm pretty much at that point now, but it's still not a bad support at the moment. You then have Chain, Chance to Bleed, and Brutality. Chance to Bleed is pretty damn weak at this point, but early on is just giving us some flat fizz. We can easily replace it for something like Maim or Vicious Projectiles, but currently Vicious Projectiles is my single target swap over the Chain to get much more damage. Though by no means this is an optimal support, it's only good in early leveling, and at the moment it's not very good at all. So we're using a Saviour. It was about 1 exalt when I first bought them. Don't know what they're at now, but still a pretty undervalued, underrated weapon, even though it makes so many builds much nicer to play. And then I'm using a self-crafted foil. This was actually like 50 alterations, Regal, and then multi-mod. It's about 420 DPS, and you know, these things cost like 5 to 10x if you're going to try and buy them. But as it turns out, a Bell Timber Blade for this build specifically is roughly the exact same output as this sword. So I've got a nice sword, I crafted it, and it's, you know, going to work well, but I could have not done that and just worn this Several Chaos weapon, and it's about the exact same result, because this gives you 2 additional projectiles if you used a movement skill recently, and that is pretty often, and otherwise DPS is somewhat similar, just a little bit worse, and the 2 extra proj is really good for the Lancing Steel. But by that point, if you're going to use that, then you probably don't need GMP, and you can put in some other damage support as well, maybe slow proj, faster proj. You could even use LMP, another couple of proj with less of a damage decrease, etc. But the budget option is definitely to use a Bell Timber Blade, and it's probably going to add a bit more clusterfuck to your screen as well. I then crafted a couple of diamond rings that you just put some life catalysts onto there for quality, and then I was just like scouring them until something good happened. But you can use like contempt essences or some sort of fossils and stuff, but you're trying to get the life gain on hit and then some other crap, and in this case just some life gain on hit, some resists, and then craft a bit of life. But the life gain on hit means that we'll have pretty infinite sustain as long as we're attacking something. Grabbed an amulet with 38 crit multi fractured in. You can either get fractured crit multi or fractured fizz or fractured life, all at the T1 for like 1 to 5C. It's actually pretty fucking ridiculous. And then just craft around it and hope to hit like 1 or 2 mods. In this case I got life, fizz, so that's pretty good stuff. But amulets that just, you know, look like this are very cheap regardless. Even without the fracturing, amulets are a dime a dozen right now. Helm, just bit of life and resist and stuff. Gloves, this is where I get my mana leech from, though for a long time I was spec'd into this node here, just for both life and mana leech, but currently I just get some fizz mana leech here, so you do want some on either rings, gloves, or amulet, or the passive tree, or jewels, so pretty easy to cover mana leech somewhere. Boots, I found these, you know, temple type base boots with a bit of dodge, and then I exalted on lightning res, but pretty basic type boot. Don't even really need that extra dodge. It's just something I found wanted to use. And then a belt. I think I bought this for a few C. Yeah, bought it for like 7C, annulled a prefix, and then I managed to just craft damage. Found this sort of jewel, crafted it. It's got a fractured life, and then all we're looking for is a bit of attack speed on crit. So nothing too serious in the gear. Can be a bit more humble, can be more life oriented if you really want it to be and stuff. Damage is currently, with Saviour clones up, if they're attacking and steel shards are going off, something like 6 million DPS, which is pretty ridiculous for how easy it is to put together. A Dying Sun goes a long way for damage as well. Make sure you get yourself one of those. You're going to go for the big damage, but like I said, you can take it to much higher levels. Awaken Chain, Awaken GMP, much better sword. Paradoxic is pretty good, and much better jewels. Currently my jewels are just 5 to 10C sort of beasts, so you're just going for double crit multi, attack speed on swords. Likewise with that one, double crit multi, attack speed on swords. all steel, pretty cheap stuff, and I might go for another dual socket here, maybe some life. Still quite a lot that you can do on the passive tree. Might not use this anymore, don't know, we'll see how it goes, because there is a lot of stuff that you can take and a lot of sort of stuff that you could get rid of. It's a little bit of a versatile passive tree is what I was trying to say. And originally I was going this way and that way, and I also picked up this impale shit, but in the end I figured that I'd rather these little utility nodes over here, and I kind of saved a few points by not needing to go this way, because it's only really this node that's kind of good, and 10% impale effect, it was kind of a waste. But you can easily do a bit of a different passive tree. You can do Champion, Berserker, Gladiator. It doesn't have to be Deadeye at all, but I do enjoy the current niche flavor of a Deadeye and the additional chain node. My mana reservation at the moment is, where are we? Blood and something, right? Flesh and Stone, which is increased fizz damage with Maim as well, so we've got Maim there. If I end up putting Maim as one of my main links, then you won't need to use this for mana reservation, and I might just do that. Ancestral Protector gives us a bunch of extra attack speed. Blood Rage, blah blah blah. Ice Golem, Herald of Purity, bit of extra fizz. Dread Banner, that's some impale stacking. Faster attacks, Fortify Whirling Blades. And then I've also got Dash over here too. Precision for a bit of extra crit and accuracy. And Sniper's Mark, big increase on single target, 37% increased damage from proj hits. A bit of flasks and stuff, but also that splitting thing, which is pretty nuts. I could easily fit in a 4-link for Vile Double Strike right now if I wanted, for even more single target, and I might do that if it feels necessary in the end game, but it really doesn't at the moment. So you got a pretty versatile 4-link that you can do whatever you want with there. And the current microtransactions for the build are basically Demonic, 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 Demon from the last mystery box, Pandemonium Helm, a couple of whatever swords, and Demonic weapon effects. And then you got this entire little aura effect coming from Sunrise, Blood and Sand, the current mystery box. So far so good in the character. It's an absolutely insane playstyle. I just could not face roll any harder, and it's borderline too easy. So if you guys decide to copy some Lancing Steel action, I hope it works just as well for you, because for me it has been ridiculous. Possibly build of the league. We'll see how it holds up versus the Alberon Wander. So thank you very much for watching. See you guys in the next video, which is next time.